this is Miss Jackie of the Atlee Library. We're so happy you decided to join us today for Pamunkey Regional Library System's Storytime at Home. Today, we would like to thank the authors Allison Oliver and Kate Banks and the publishers Houghton Mifflin Harcourt and Schwartz and Wade Books for allowing us to read our 2 stories today. Now let's get started with our opening song. The more we read together, 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 the more we read together, the happier we'll be. 'Cause your friends are my friends and my friends are your friends. The more we read together, the happier we'll be. Ah, isn't that so nice? I'm really excited for today's story time. Did you know that this October, we're having a rare event? We're having a blue moon. This happens about every 19 years when it'll fall on October 31st, the blue moon. In fact, for Halloween, a blue moon only happens on October 31st. Isn't that a fun fact? You know what I love about the moon? That you can howl to it like a wolf. In fact, that's our theme for today. In fact, I have something special. My wolf hat. So, let's put on our wolf hats, pull up our paws, and start reading our lovely books. Our first book today is called Moon by Allison Oliver. Every day, Moon walked home from school and thought about the day. There was always a lot to do. Stuff to do. Homework, clean my room, soccer practice, trumpet lessons, math tutor, stuff, and more stuff. Blah, blah, blah. Moon always did it all, but she wondered what it'd be like to not chew. What would it feel like to be free, to run, to yell, to be wild? Can you learn to be wild? Moon couldn't find the answer anywhere. What do you think? Can you learn to be wild, or are you born wild? That night, Moon saw a shooting star zip by. She went outside to watch for more. Do you see the shooting star? It's right over here. What she found was different. Paw prints. Strange. Exciting. Wild. There, in the garden, a beautiful, furry creature stared back at her. A wolf. Wolf offered Moon a ride. In a flash, they were off to the edge of the great forest. Wouldn't you like to ride with a wolf? I think I would, but I'd also be a little scared. Wolves might be a little bit too wild for me. The forest opened to a clearing. Wolf's pack gathered to welcome Moon. She asked them to show her the wolfy ways. You think we're going to learn the wolfy ways too? How to pounce. Can you guys pounce? How to play. What about playing? I think I can play. How to howl. Can you howl? Why don't you all lift your heads to the sky and go, "Oh!" with me? How to be still. How to listen and feel. Can all of you close your eyes and take a deep breath and let it out? The breeze blew through Moon's hair. The chirping of the insects seemed to grow quiet. The ocean of stars felt not so far away. The forest exhaled, and so did Moon. It was wild. Moon was happy. Then she heard a howl, the familiar voice of her mother. Moon knew she had to go home. But she wasn't the same Moon anymore. The next day, Moon walked to school. How do you think Moon's been changed? And she took her wolfy ways with her. The end. Isn't that a nice little story? I brought some of my own friends with me. I like to collect little wolf plushes. I have a small little collection from all around of various wolves. Aren't they cute? In fact, I have a little rhyme about a bunch of little wolves. Why don't you guys help me? It uses hand motions. What you're going to do is hold up your fingers, and when I pull a finger down and bend it, you do too. Shall we begin? 5 little wolf pups were playing in the sun. This one saw a rabbit, and he began to run. This one saw a butterfly, and he began to race. This one saw a cat, and he began to chase. This one tried to catch his tail and went round and round. This one was so quiet, he never made a sound. Isn't that fun? I have another poem, just about wolves, but I think this time I want my little wolfy friend to read it with me. Are you guys ready to read it together? This is called A Wolf in the Park by Richard Edwards. Is there a wolf? A wolf in the park? A wolf who wakes when the night gets dark? Is there a wolf in the park? Are you in the park? Is there a wolf who creeps from his hidden den while the city sleeps? Is there a wolf in the park? Are you in the park? Is there a wolf whose nightly track circles the park fence, zigzags back? Is there a wolf in the park? Are you in the park? Is there a wolf who pads his way between the tables of the closed cafe? Is there a wolf in the park? Are you in the park? Is there a wolf whose bite lets those feathers by the pond last night? Is there a wolf in the park? Is there a wolf? No one knows, but I've heard a howl when the full moon glows. Is there a wolf? Ooh! Isn't that fun? And now I think it's time for our last story of the day. This story is called Pup and Bear by Kate Banks, and it's a lovely little story about how just because you're not blood related, just because you're not the same species, doesn't mean you can't have someone who loves you and takes care of you. And it has some lovely illustrations. The illustrations are done by Naoko Stoop. Pup and Bear by Kate Banks. Whoosh! When the great gray owl swooped down, screeching, "Hoo, hoo!" the Arctic wolves knew that the big freeze was on its way. They took shelter in a snowdrift, and they listened to the fierce winds howler and roar. They watched the snow blow in spirals, wrapping the world in a fluffy white coat. Look at the wolves' fur. They have the same white coat as the snow, don't they? But then The wind's bitter cold breath turned warm, and the sun appeared. The big melt came, and one lone wolf pup found itself on a sheet of ice, spinning out towards sea. Look at the poor little wolf pup. All his relatives are walking away from him without realizing they left him. The pup slid into the water. He swam and swam, and when he reached land, he burrowed into a snowbank. He was tired, and he wanted his mother. The pup closed his eyes and fell asleep, listening to the throb of silence across the still landscape. Poor little wolf pup. He woke to the feel of a cold nose against his fur. The smell was familiar. It was a polar bear. "You are not my mother," said the pup, flattening his ears against his head. "I am not your mother," said the polar bear, "but I can cuddle you and keep you safe." The pup was shy and frightened. "Aren't you going to eat me?" he asked. "Polar bears eat wolves." "Not this one," said the polar bear, shaking her head. "Climb on my back, and I will take you to my den." What a nice polar bear. The pup stretched a paw forward cautiously. Then he climbed onto the polar bear's back, and they crossed the tundra under the watchful eyes of a trio of baby puffins learning to fly. Look at the puffins and the wolf and bear traveling together. Back at the den, the polar bear licked and cleaned the pup. "I am not your mother," she said, "but I can feed you and keep you warm." The next day, they set off across the wintry tundra. When they spotted a walrus with long, sharp tusks, the polar bear bellowed and chuffed. She's protecting him. Isn't that so sweet? "Where are we going?" asked the pup as they neared water. "I am not your mother," said the polar bear, "but I can show you where to catch a fish." They passed a snowy goose perched on a nest of eggs. They sniffed the trail of a seal as he tried to outsmart them, and they stopped at the water's edge where the fish and the lemmings came and went in the wondrous wheel of life. She might not be his mother, but she's certainly acting like it. The sun shone down on the crisp, crackling snow, and the polar bear rolled in the snowbank. "Come on," she said to the pup. "I am not your mother, but I can play with you." But when the pup tugged too hard at the polar bear's fur, the bear growled. "I am not your mother," she said, "but I can scold you." Then she nuzzled the pup and tickled his tummy. Tired at last, the pup curled against the bear, and they napped, listening to the wind whimper and sigh. The earth turned round and round, and the big freeze came, followed by the big melt, until at last the polar bear nudged the wolf, who wasn't a pup any longer. "I am not your mother," she said, "but I know it's time for you to go." She nuzzled the wolf one last time, and the wolf nuzzled her back. Then he walked out into the wild world. Look at the pup, he's all grown up. The wolf howled to the midnight sun, which glowed on the horizon, where day ended and night began, and he was answered by the cry of another wolf. Soon he was leading his own pack across the frozen tundra. Then one day Wolf came upon a polar bear cub, huddled in a snowdrift. "Where is your mother?" asked the wolf. But the cub didn't know. The wolf sniffed the cub and rubbed its fur with a wet nose. "You are not my mother," said the cub, cowering. "I am not your mother," said the wolf, "but I can cuddle you and keep you warm." He's returning the favor, isn't he? "Are you going to eat me?" asked the cub. "Wolves eat polar bears." "Not this one," said the wolf, shaking its head. "Climb on my back, and I will take you to my den." The polar bear clambered onto the wolf's back. "I am not your mother," said the wolf, "but you can stay with me until you're big enough to be on your own." He is returning the favor. Isn't that so sweet? And the wolf led the pack back across the tundra, along the path that went round and round in the wondrous wheel of life. The end. And we get to see a family of polar bears. Isn't that a fun little story? I really enjoyed having you today at our story time at home, and I hope you enjoyed it too. We're going to finish it off with our goodbye song. Are you guys ready? We wave goodbye like this. We wave goodbye like this. We clap our hands for all our friends. We wave goodbye like this. Bye, guys. Stay safe and cuddly with your family.